Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. So, I've covered spells from the arcane list and I've covered spells from the primal list. Today on Team Player Gaming, I will be covering the best teamwork spells for the divine list. Let's get started. So, how about we cover the cantrip first? The cantrip for this video is Forbidding Ward. If you've played this game at all, then you probably knew I was going to cover this spell eventually. This spell targets one ally and one enemy, both of which have to be within 30 feet of you. The ally gets a +1 bonus to literally everything that the target enemy can do to them. That includes armor class and all saving throws. And you can sustain this spell for up to 1 minute. And this spell is a cantrip, which of course means you can cast it as much as you want. I would have covered this spell a lot sooner, but it's only available to divine and occult casters. Divine casters have a ton of teamwork options, and this is one of the better cantrips. I actually ended up having quite a difficult time coming up with a first level spell for this video, but I ended up going with the standard heal spell. Unfortunately, there's really only one first level spell on the divine list that even comes close to the teamwork potential of heal, and guess what? I've already covered it. You can check out my teamwork arcane spells video for that spell. Don't get me wrong, first level definitely has some good teamwork options. The problem is that most of those spells either aren't as good as heal or have severe limitations. For example, magic weapon is a great teamwork option at low levels. Giving the fighter 2 weapon dice and a +1 to hit before he can get a +1 striking weapon is fantastic. The problem comes when that fighter does get a +1 striking weapon. Now, magic weapon is completely useless on him. The spell doesn't even heighten either. It'd be so much better if it did. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail on heal because it's pretty self-explanatory. Basically, this is one of those spells that you can cast for 1 action or up to 3 actions. For 1 action, the spell has a range of touch. If you spend 2 actions on the spell, then it has a range of 30 feet and heals more hit points. And if you spend 3 actions on the spell, then it has a 30-foot emanation, healing all living creatures in the area and damaging all undead creatures in the area. It's a pretty standard spell that clerics get a lot of, but it's very effective. Alright, second level is another level that I had trouble picking a spell from, but I ended up going with Resist Energy. This spell targets 1 creature, and you have to choose between acid, cold, electricity, or fire damage. Oh, you can also choose sonic damage, my bad. Anyway, for 10 minutes, that target gains resistance 5 to the energy type you chose. Heightening this spell to 4th level increases the resistance to 10, and you can target 2 creatures. If you cast this spell at 7th level, then the resistance increases to 15, and you can target up to 5 creatures. This spell is pretty situational, but that seems to be the case for all 2nd level divine spells. But if you're running into a lot of spells that deal these types of damage, this is a spell to pick up. Now let's talk about the 3rd level spell for this video, Rouse Skeletons. I did cover this spell in my 2nd and 3rd level spells from Secrets of Magic video. However, I'm going to cover it again here because it's just such a good spell. This spell is literally difficult terrain that you can move. I'm not even joking. Not only that, but it does damage to the creatures in the area. You do have to be careful with this spell though, because it does damage to all creatures in the area, even your allies. That being said, if you've got a bunch of ranged attackers in your party, this is definitely a good spell to put on enemies. When you sustain the spell, you can move it up to 20 feet. This means that you can move it so that another enemy is affected, or the same enemy. It's only 20 feet per round, so if an enemy moves away, spending all 3 of their actions, you're probably not going to be able to put them into difficult terrain for a long time. However, if they're spending all 3 of their actions moving, that's all the better for the party. Secondly, if they're spending all 3 of their actions moving, that means they're probably moving away from the party. Which means melee attackers will have to start using their ranged weapons, which they're not going to be as good at. And dumb enemies might just continue to go after the party meaning you can keep them taking skeleton damage every round. I might just do a teamwork strategy using this spell. In fact, I can already see one. Alright, the next spell on this list is Painful Vibrations. I covered this spell in my 4th and 5th level Secrets of Magic's Teamwork Spells video. But I'm covering it again here because, like Rouse Skeletons, it's such a good spell. For the level it is. The target of this spell takes 8d6 sonic damage with a Fortitude save. On a successful saving throw, the target takes half damage. On a failed saving throw, the target takes full damage and is sickened 1 and deafened for 1 round. If the target happens to critically fail their saving throw, then they take double damage, are sickened 2, and are deafened for 1 minute. You wouldn't believe how few effects out there cause the sickened condition. It makes sense though, because sickened is the best condition in the game. If an enemy is sickened, it's at least a -1 to everything until they spend an action retching. And that might not even get rid of it, because all that does is give them another Fortitude save to end the condition. Deafened is also a great condition. The deafened condition could allow the rogue who's invisible to sneak up on an enemy and sneak attack him. It's also a great condition to put on spellcasters. 90% of all spells require auditory actions. That means 90% of the time, they're going to have to make that DC 5 flat check in order to cast anything. Yes, this spell does not impose a debuff on a successful save. However, if they at least fail their saving throw, then it's one of the best 4th level spells in the game. Alright, now we can talk about Mirror Malefactors. This is another spell that I covered in my video on 4th and 5th level teamwork spells from Secrets of Magic. This spell essentially combines the Fear spell with the Aura of Despair champion feat, but only for 1 target. You surround the target with mirrors. As long as it is surrounded by mirrors, it's frightened 1 and it can't reduce its frightened value. Also, each round that you sustain the spell, the target's reflections leap out and attack, dealing 78 mental damage to the target, with a basic will save. If the target succeeds on any will save, the spell immediately ends as the mirrors shatter. This spell makes the frightened condition almost as good as the sickened condition. Remember that frightened does the same thing as sickened, except that it goes down every turn normally. That is not the case with this spell, however. A -1 to everything as long as they continue to fail will saves, plus they're taking mental damage? Come on. Of course I'm going to cover this spell. Great against low will save enemies. For 6th level, we have Scintillating Safeguard. This spell is a reaction that is triggered when you or an ally within 30 feet would take damage from an effect. This must be physical or energy damage. And the best part is, you can target up to 5 willing allies with this spell. Choose 1 type of damage the effect deals. Each target gains resistance 10 to that type of damage. This resistance can go all the way up to 14 if you heighten it. This spell can take a fireball that would knock everybody out and keep everybody up. Keep in mind, this also works for physical damage. This spell is a fantastic counter for area of effect spells, but only damaging ones. It's obviously not going to work against things like a darkness spell. Moving on, the next spell for this list is Energy Aegis. This spell is essentially resist energy on steroids. The target gains resistance 5 to all energy damage. That's right, not just 1, all of them. That includes negative and positive energy. Plus, this spell lasts for 24 hours. So slap this one on someone at the beginning of the day, and they're good against energy damage for the rest of the day. In some situations, however, a heightened to resist energy is going to be better. For example, if you know you're going to be going up against the red dragon, then a heightened resist energy is going to be better. That'll give resistance 15, and you can hit the entire party. But if you don't know what's going to happen the next day, then this spell is great. It's just unfortunate that you can't hit more than 1 target with this spell. But hey, every spell has its downsides, right? Divine Aura is only available to divine casters. This one is basically Forbidding Ward on steroids. This spell takes up a 10-foot emanation area and targets all allies in the area. The targets gain a +1 bonus to AC and saves while in the area. When you cast this spell, choose an alignment that your deity has. You can't cast this spell if you don't have a deity or if your deity is true neutral. The bonus from this spell increases to +2 against enemies that are the opposite alignment of the one you chose. For example, if you chose to make this spell good, then this would apply against attacks and effects created by evil creatures. This bonus increases to +4 if those enemies try an effect that gives the controlled condition. If a creature of an opposite alignment decides to attack a target of this spell, then it must make a will saving throw or become blinded for 1 minute. Each time you sustain the spell, this spell's radius increases by 10 feet. This spell is fantastic. Giving the bonus from Forbidding Ward to all allies is already good. But then you gotta factor in the fact that this spell applies to all enemies as well. Plus the bonus goes up against specific enemies. And then there's the fact that if they hit any allies in this area, then they get blinded. 8th level? Ha! I personally think this spell should be at least 9th level. It's that good for teamwork. That spell is definitely good. However, the next spell on this list definitely gives it a run for its money. I am talking about Foresight. This spell targets one creature and lasts for 1 hour. You want to use this spell when you know that you're going up against a bunch of groups of enemies one after the other. The target of this spell gains a +2 bonus on initiative checks and can no longer be caught flat-footed by undetected or flanking enemies. Also, for as long as this spell is active, the target gains the following reaction. The trigger for the Foresight reaction is that the target of Foresight is defending himself against a hostile creature. If that hostile enemy forces the target to make a roll, such as for a saving throw, then the target rolls twice and takes the better results. If the hostile creature is the one that makes the roll, such as for an attack roll or skill check, then they roll twice and take the lower result. This is good to put on any ally. Keep in mind, unlike other spells that give you a reaction, this spell doesn't end when you use the reaction. It lasts for the full hour. Also, each round the target can decide whether to give themselves advantage on a roll or to give the opponent disadvantage on their roll. This spell is especially good if you can put it on an ally that will make enemies waste actions, like the Wrestler Barbarian that I just did a build video on. Now it's time for the last spell of this video, Revival. This spell is by far the best on this list because it can turn a fight that you're losing badly into a fight that you can actually win. This spell targets living and dead creatures of your choice within 30 feet. All the targets that are living regain 10d8 plus 40 hit points. The dead creatures that you targeted come back to life and gain temporary hit points equal to the amount that the living creatures healed, with the same effects and limitations as Raised Dead. Creatures brought back to life by this spell cannot regain any hit points or temporary hit points. Once Revival's duration ends, those creatures lose the temporary hit points and die. This spell cannot resurrect creatures that were killed by Disintegrate or Death effects. This spell doesn't work on undead. Oh, you're the cleric and you're the only one left that isn't dead? Cast a spell! All of a sudden, all your allies are back up. This is kind of a last resort spell. But if your party is really low on health or dead, and you're still up, cast a spell. Boom, you're back in the fight. Alright, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more Pathfinder 2nd Edition teamwork content. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like it, you can check out this video here. So until next time, remember, teamwork is vital.